Hey guys, this is me seconds before walking into the theater to see Lilo and Stitch. I'll give you an update on how I feel after everything is said and done.
Everything I know about storytelling.
It's bad.
Do you think Jenny will make it to the final two?
Who cares? This show is lame. Everyone's such a...
What's up everybody, it's Critical. Today I'll be talking about the live action Lilo and Stitch remake. Let's do this shit. I doubt there's anyone on my channel who remembers that era of Critical. That was a waste of a joke. So as stated in the intro of this video, I recently went to the movie theater to sadly see the live action Lilo and Stitch remake. Why did I spend money on this film? Because fuck you, that's why I did it. Now, I actually forced my friend Salem to go with me, and this man almost left the theater like 2 separate times and sat on the floor throughout most of it, so that should give a pretty big indicator of how bad this movie was. Of course, there's gonna be spoilers in this. That's all the time you got to click off the video. Let's fucking go. Now, going into this movie, I decided to sit down and rewatch all of the films, the series, and of course, the peak that is Leroy and Stitch, the way that they ended off the television series, just so I could be prepared to be thoroughly disappointed by this film. And I can say without a doubt, I was disappointed. I mean, there's not much else to say. It would be like if my kid's school called me and said, hey, Mr. DiddlyDooYT, your son took a shit in the urinal. Am I supposed to be surprised? That's my kid. I know what he does. I know how he is at home. Why am I surprised that he would do something that heinous at school? That's just par for the course for him. So really, I was just in that theater trying to basically be in the school while he does it to see how badly the situation occurred. First of all, the pacing in this film is just absolutely fucking horrendous. Oh shit, I forgot. My audience is minors. Put Subway Surfers gameplay right up there so that they have something to watch at while I talk about this film. The pacing in this film is absolutely dog shit horrendous, and that basically comes from them removing Gantu from the plot. I don't know what brain dead person was like, we can't afford the animators, we need to take Gantu out of this film. It was such a terrible decision that it actively made the beginning portion of the film about 5 minutes shorter than the original. And I'm like, this is going by incredibly fast. How are we gonna make up this time? I'll tell you how they make up the time. They make up the time by putting Stitch at a wedding scene. That's right, he crashes a reception at a wedding and he starts running around and just like doing all sorts of cute things. He's causing mayhem. But the whole point of this scene is to show you that Stitch is not evil or destructive on purpose. He's just young, he's curious, he doesn't know that he's doing wrong. He's discovering the world, and all he needs is a little light touch to really bring him to be the nice person we know that he can be. And that was one of the main problems that I knew I would have with this film going into it. The fact that they would not understand Stitch. And that is made abundantly clear with how they gave him his name in the film. He's acting up in the car, running around the car, doing all types of type shit. Just like, you know, being a little goober. And all of a sudden, one of his little claws like gets embedded in the seat and like makes a little tear. And Nani's like, now I'm gonna have to get stitches. I'm gonna have to get that stitched. And then Lilo, I swear to fucking God, does this. Ah! His name is Stitch. And if you don't believe that that's how that played out, you'll have no way of validating, because I'm not gonna allow you to go see this film. If I catch any of you going to the theater after I went through the painstaking trouble of buying tickets to watch this for you, it's over for you. Nani is another aspect of the film that I'm just not surprised they didn't really understand. The whole subplot with CPS and Cobra Bubbles made absolutely 0 sense. The way that they rewrote it made absolute 0 sense to the plot. The social worker is just this really nice, caring like woman who's like, oh, you gotta be good for Lilo, come on. We have a surprise social worker who's coming in to check on you guys by the end of the week, so as long as you have a job and you're not a sack of shit, we won't take your family from you, all right? That should work out great. And then we cut to Cobra Bubbles, who is a CIA agent who has nothing to do with the family. But then one day they're like, hey, there's an alien on Hawaii. And then he goes to Hawaii and he's like, I'm gonna pretend to be a social worker so I can find this blue alien who definitely lives with the family. And then he is the social worker, but then he goes to the house, but then Lilo isn't there because she ran away, because Stitch ran away, because they got in trouble for something earlier that was entirely her fault. And I'll get into that in a second. And then he's like, oh man, so that alien guy isn't here. But then Pleakley shows up and he's like, oh, so aliens are real. I'm gonna take him down to the precinct and we're gonna get him booked. And then the world's gonna know they're aliens. And Nani's like, please don't let them know they're aliens. And he's like, oh, all right, strange woman I've never met before. I believe you, and we're gonna go save Lilo and Stitch. That's the name of the movie. His involvement made absolutely zero sense. Now, I made reference to Stitch running away in the film, and you may be thinking to yourself, oh, is this in reference to the very critically acclaimed ugly duckling scene from the original? No, as far as you were concerned, that ugly duckling never hatched from his fucking egg. That story was never thought of. It was never even conceived by anyone in this No, the reason why Stitch runs away is because at the luau that Nani was working at the original, in this universe's chain of events, they are working there. Nani is working there. Sorry, this movie broke my brain. Nani is working there, and she tells, hey, Lilo and Stitch, be on your best behavior or I'm going to be angry at you. So then Stitch is like, all right, I'll be on my best behavior. I was lying. And then he goes up to the drink stand and he's like, oh, I'm gonna spray seltzer water on people. Lilo's like, don't do that, Stitch, you're gonna get in trouble. And then he sprays her and she's like, oh, you want to do fuck shit. All right, let's go do fuck shit. And then they proceed to have a montage of Lilo purposefully gaslighting Stitch into doing some of the most heinous, atrocious things at this luau, known to man. And then when Nani gets fired, she's like, oh, I can't believe you. I'm so mad. Grr. And Stitch, who still thinks they're playing and having fun, he's like, high five, Lilo. And she's like, I don't want to talk to you right now. And I'm like, bitch, did you just put a loaded handgun into his hand, tell him to shoot someone, and then act surprised when the cops showed up like, oh, Stitch, oh, there were no signs. Lilo, I hate you. I really hate how they portrayed Lilo in this film. Because even if it wasn't on purpose, in the original film, they accidentally made one of the best portrayals of an autistic child coming from a broken home. Absolutely amazing portrayal. And even if that's not what they want to accept it as, that is basically what they made. And in this film, they make it their goal to make sure you understand, no, we're not making fun of autistic people. She's not autistic. She's just a bad kid who does bad things sometimes because she's misunderstood, but she's bad. And I'm like, oh, okay. So you're just so what you're telling me is that her being alone and having no friends is a personal choice because she chooses to act out. I got it. That makes perfect sense. Peak cinema. Another thing this film will love to do is that it will love to blow smoke up Nani's ass and be like, oh, you're such a cool person. You're so smart and cool and you're a good mom and no bad things ever deserve to happen to you. And then she does everything in her power to be as distant from Lilo as physically possible and hammer into her head that our parents are dead. Our family's broken up. We don't have Ohana anymore. Ohana means doo-doo. You are doo-doo every time you say Ohana. If you ever come to me and say Ohana again, I'll pick you up by the back of your overalls, put you in the toilet, and flush you down with the rest of the doo-doo in the sewer. And I'm like, oh yeah, I really want to root for her to go to college and abandon the family. And you'll never guess what she does. She goes to college and abandons the family. Now there's gonna be people out here like, oh, you are missing the point because Jumba gave he didn't give. He left behind a portal gun so she can go from college to home at any time. Okay, so what you're saying is you incorporated a plot point in order to create tension and then made it known that there would be no tension in that plot point. I love Beerus in Resurrection of F. Whis, This is how you cut a sand. Whis, shut your bitch ass up. And Jumba, oh my fucking god. Yeah, I was like, yeah, I know they're gonna do him bad, but how bad is it really going to be? I wasn't expecting it to be that bad. I ain't even gonna front. Like, of course, there's the whole accent thing that people were freaking out. It's like, oh no, Russia is a bad place. We cannot give him a Russian accent. And I'm like, damn, that nigga had a Russian accent? I thought that nigga just had a Jumba accent. That's crazy. Isn't it crazy how when you give your audience something that has time and thought put into it, whenever their suspension of disbelief is called into question, they can just ignore it? I mean, in the show, my nigga Jumba has experiments who straight up speak French fluently, and I did not question that until I turned 27. Isn't it crazy how when you just give something time and care and put like thought into it, people don't question it? That's crazy. And then there was the whole deal with making Jumbo the villain in this film. I get it. You guys needed fucking like, you guys needed an antagonist in this film. And it couldn't be the social worker who's trying to separate Lilo and Nani. It couldn't be Gantu because he doesn't exist. It couldn't be the Galactic Armada who already said they wanted Stitch dead. It had to be Jumba. And he had to be some random white guy who was just evil for the sake of being evil. I know people have said they miss villains like that nowadays, but then I remembered that we don't do that anymore because then people who are bad at writing think they have an excuse to just put things on paper and expect money to fall into their pockets. And that's exactly what we got with Jumba. I don't remember a single line that he gave. I did not care about his human disguise antics on the island. All I knew is that every time he showed up on screen, I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. And you may be saying to yourself, well, wasn't he evil for the sake of being evil in the show? No, he was evil because he realized he had free will and just started doing shit. This man has 2 experiments where if they release Stitches at the exact same time in the exact same proximity, universe just implodes. Why? I just wanted to see if I could. Jumba has 1 experiment who literally just goes into the forest and starts screaming at high frequencies to scare people. Why? Just to see if I can. One of them, baseball. He was evil because he was just testing the limits of his abilities, and the government did not like that. In the movie, they're like, hey, we paid you to make experiments for us to use. Now and they're evil. Oh, now that we have your experiment, no, you're going to prison. And he's like, grr, I'll get back at you. Me and my straight white best friend Pleakley, cause in this universe, gays do not exist. I'm about to give this film the only compliment you will hear throughout this entire video, and it's not even a compliment to the film. Pleakley's actor was really good. Really good actor. He did an amazing job in this film. It just sucks that he wasn't playing Pleakley, if that makes sense. He was up there acting his little Badusi off, and then at the end of the day, they were like, all right, you did great as Pleakley, and he's like, that was Pleakley? Yeah, that's essentially what he was. I enjoyed his performance. I enjoyed seeing him on screen, and I just wish he wasn't in Lilo and Stitch. I would happily watch him in anything else. He's also very handsome.
What is up, my Earth nigga?
Literally the only other thing that stuck out in my mind was Jumba, after capturing Stitch and putting him on his ship, he was like, I'm gonna take you back to my lab and I am going to take you apart and put you back together again as something more evil. And then on his screen, he flashes past a bunch of the experiments in the 620 series. We see Angel, Ruben, some other person. And he's like, I'm gonna turn you into 627. But in the series, didn't you make 627 because Stitch was really good at his job and he was just arrogant? So you were like, I'm just gonna make something that Stitch can't beat. And I'm like, all right, so why do you already have what 627 is going to look like? Why are you confirming that? Wait, you have Angel and Ruben in your database fully designed, so does that mean that they exist, or are those just like design ideas you had for Stitch? Because if they do exist, why would you take his design and put it into a lesser being? I do not understand. And especially since if you know 625 exists, and his whole thing is that he's just as good as Stitch, but this nigga has a sandwich addiction. Why would you want to turn him into him? And then even further on that note, if you really wanted to make a niche callback to get your money back, since you're putting him on all the fucking merch anyway, you could have just said, I'm gonna turn you into something even more evil, less fluffy, maybe even put a little bit of red in you, and then have a little picture of have a little scan diagram of Leroy. You're like, oh, you're just a fanboy. Nigga, do you know how often I've been walking around Macy's and just see a random piece of Leroy merch? I'm like, why do you exist? No one remembers you. Why are you here? I guarantee you more people remember Ruben over Leroy. And yet Leroy is just everywhere because he looks like Stitch. So Jumbo wouldn't even have to do that much work to rework Stitch to turn into Leroy. You don't even have to name him if that's a Hamsterville thing. And you don't want to pay your poor starving animators to animate Hamsterville. I get it. I understand. Animators do not deserve money, and they do not deserve to have houses or food in their mouths. I understand where you are where you're coming from. I'm just saying, if you really wanted to keep money out of the animators' mouths, you didn't even have to pay them to render 627. You could have had them render 629. Yes, Leroy is actually 629. After Stitch defeats 627 in the series, Jumbo's like, all right, I won't do it anymore except for 628. And he puts the pod away for future use. But then he doesn't do it, and he just makes Leroy in the hit movie Leroy and Stitch, which you should definitely watch. So yeah, all in all, I'm not surprised with the disappointment I felt. It was a little more disappointment because it wasn't just they were messing up the Lilo and Stitch franchise. It just proved to me that these new wave of writers just don't know how to write. And that was the main problem with the film. The fact that they would remove something from a perfectly crafted story to be like, oh, it doesn't make sense, we don't want to do this. And then they realize there's 75 plot holes they have to fill, and they're like, oh, don't worry, we'll just do this. And then they fill in one plot hole, which opens up 85 more plot holes. And they're like, well, we won't have to worry about it. We'll just make Stitch do something cute, and the audience won't think about it. Yes, the fuck we will. Anyways, I'm gonna edit this, put this up, and hope I get a YouTube paycheck this month because I have to pay my rent, and I have to pay my editors, and I have to pay my dairy staff. So you're probably asking, why did you spend money to go see Lilo and Stitch if you have to pay your staff?